Hello, and welcome to the Riverfront Reds Show, where this week we're going to spend the next hour pondering how many missed tackles would you have, Chris Garber, if you played in the Bengals secondary?
I think I'd have a lot. I don't know if I'd set the record. What do they have? The number 1, 2, and 3 in the league?
Yeah, and then Barrett Carter, who hasn't even played full time, is tied for 9th.
Yeah.
So, Bengals players and fans alike have had a bad couple of weeks, but nobody's had as bad a time as Antonio Brown. I was scrolling through Twitter before you jumped on here, and I see the headline, Antonio Brown arrested. No, actually, let me read the actual headline. That was somebody's tweet. Antonio Brown captured in Dubai by U.S. Marshals on attempted murder charge.
What? What? Now, yeah. I have a lot of questions.
I didn't click it yet. Let's
ask learn together.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. What's your first question?
Well, my first question is, did he commit the crime in Dubai, or is he on the run and we chased him down?
Well, U.S. Marshals captured him. Why would you say, that's wild.
They don't care if you're guilty or innocent. I learned that.
The U.S. Marshals got him on an attempted murder charge. The Miami Police Department confirmed, ending a months plural long search. He was extradited to the United States, being held in Essex County, New Jersey, where he will remain until transferred to Miami-Dade County Jail.
What month? They've been looking for him for months, and they haven't put him on a poster or something?
Okay, I'm going to give credit here. We're going further than I anticipated. Sam Jane from The Athletic wrote this story. A video taken at a May 17th celebrity boxing event, which was hosted by popular streamer Aiden Ross, appeared to show Brown in an altercation with several people. After he was separated from the fray, the video appeared to show Brown holding a black pistol as he pursued one of the men.
Well, there you go. I mean, the one, I have a lot of questions about the story, but very little about the idea that Antonio Brown would be accused of a serious crime at this point.
The idea that Antonio Brown would be at a celebrity boxing match with a YouTuber or a guy I've never heard of. Police questioned several people when Brown was briefly detained, but no arrests were made. Later that night, Brown wrote on a social media post that he had been jumped by multiple individuals who tried to steal my jewelry and cause physical harm to me. He also said he had not been arrested, but Miami police issued an arrest warrant for Brown shortly thereafter.
Huh. Well,
so yeah, you may think that Barrett Carter and all the different Bengals linebackers and safeties have problems, but Geno Stone's doing a lot better than Antonio Brown right now.
I mean, the Bengals, their crime blotter is much smaller than it used to be.
So that is the one thing that's actually, that's worth mentioning, I suppose. And I'm surprised they don't put that up on bold headlines up on the video boards. But this is a Reds show. We're going to talk about a lot of Reds news here in a moment. But Chris Garber, I wanted to talk to you for a moment. I got in a scenario Sunday where I wasn't watching live, and I was like, I want to watch this game. I had to take some stuff over to our club soccer coach, and I got in a big conversation with them. I'm like, I got to go home and watch this game. I go to my basement to watch on DVR, and I'm not on social media. I'm not anywhere. I can hear my son sometimes yelling upstairs. But as I caught up, I start scrolling through social media, and when T. Higgins made the great catch and then spin and then run into the end zone, you tweeted from your seats, this is why I keep my season tickets.
I said I complain a lot, but this is why I keep the season tickets, because we get to see things like this with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow or Joe Flacco.
So by the time I read that tweet, you were already probably in anguish.
Oh, yeah. Now I regret a lot of things in life, and that tweet may be one of them. They started taking the money out for next year's season tickets.
I heard about that.
Saturday, I think. So they're really lucky that it was Saturday and not Monday.
Uh-huh.
But we left after Flacco threw the
Yeah,
The second pick six in a row that neither one of them ended up counting.
that's right.
The second one, we did the whole down by contact thing took a while, and I
Mhm.
was on the stairs by the time they did that, and out of the entire complex by the time the Bengals scored a touchdown. So we ended up standing on the side of the road in downtown Cincinnati, watching the final 2 minutes on the phone on
Oh,
YouTube TV.
no.
And I was like, you know what? I was like, they don't deserve to win this. I don't deserve to see them win. The Bears don't deserve to win. Like nobody deserves anything
Nope.
right now. I don't feel bad about leaving.
No, my Facebook post was, "This is the dumbest franchise in professional sports." And somebody, because I'm in Columbus as you are, Central Ohio, somebody in my friends group said, "Hey, quit talking about the Browns that way."
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, "Well,
yeah.
we're a made for each other pair." And of course, Michael Wilbon the next day was quoted as saying that the Bears are the dumbest organization in football. And I'm like, "Well, no, I think you won that game."
You've
So
seen a lot of. We've been exposed to a lot of really awful football in the last 2 or 3 weeks between the Bears, the Jets, the Browns, the Bengals.
I was interested because I was like, I've told you the story. I think in 1995, I was at the game where the Reds were down 11-3. It was the day after the players only meeting that Barry Larkin called. And my stepfather made us leave in the eighth inning. And so the Reds come back and win this game 13-11. And we're up by Kings Island going up I-71 when we hear it on the radio. And I was like, oh man, if Chris got in his car, and actually you told me where to park when I used your tickets once, so I kind of have an idea what you're doing. If you got in your car and you were booking it, you might have been up by Kings Island when it could have won, but you said you watched on
Yeah,
your
we stopped. I mean, we would have definitely been out of the parking garage by the end of that game
yeah.
if we'd hustled.
All right, so we got some news of the week for the Reds, and a lot of it's. I mean, we're not going to hit every name. Did you? I didn't. It came across the wire after I made my notes. You had a tweet today. What was the name of the gentleman they claimed from the Cardinals? Bubbery,
Was it Roddy or
Roddery, I think maybe.
Roddery?
Yeah. See, this is the in-depth Reds news.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, folks, for tuning in.
Yeah. No, there's going to be plenty of that type of talk. I mean, Roddery Perez or whatever his name is.
Roddery Munoz.
Munoz, yes. We'll see how that goes in the future. That's fine, whatever. But before we get to some of that news of the week, I want to talk about, it's not news. This is speculation, except for the fact that one Mark Sheldon wrote about it weeks ago. And it's the idea that the Reds might trade Hunter Greene. This thing is being talked about so often. People are reading tea leaves. Bryce Spalding on Twitter got a copy of all the bobbleheads for next year, and Hunter Greene's not one of them. And he says, "Well, he's good as gone." but but
That's never stopped them from issuing a bobblehead.
well, yeah, I mean, Key Brian Hayes is on that list, and he's been rumored as well. But I think I want to talk to you about it. I want your thoughts. All the times this team has traded a younger player just before he's due to make his big contract. I mean, we can think of the guys, even like Jay Bruce was on a contract, but he'd been around a lot longer. But some of these guys, they trade them off well before. I mean, Luis Castillo and Johnny Cueto are two. Like Cueto had a second deal and all that, but whatever. This is one of the most team-friendly contracts for a guy when he's healthy that is what, top 3 or 4 in the National League starting pitcher probably at this point.
I think that's pretty fair.
Now healthy's key. That he hasn't been healthy for an entire year. I understand that, but let me go through the numbers and then I want your full take on this. Like where we would be if they actually, in our mindset, if they actually traded him. He will make $8.3 million this year. Then next year it's 15.3, and then only up to 16.3 in 2028. But it gets better than that because now you go all the way out to 2029, and the option is only $21 million. Chris, how much did they pay Nick Martinez?
Say that's Nick Martinez money,
and that's in 2029. Now I don't know what work stoppage and this, that, and the other might happen between now and then. We've got a viewer mail question to that effect, but if they play through 2029 and he's even what he was this past year, even with the injuries, he will have earned and then some way more value than that. And yet you're possibly going to just give him away right now? Like what where would that put you as far as, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to make a threat that I'll never watch the Reds again or something, but this would be up there for me as far as one of the most angering moves they could make. And I don't even know who they'd get, but
Yeah, I don't. Well, I mean, obviously, it depends on what they get. I mean, Let me just say first. I'll answer your question. I don't put much stock in any of this talk.
okay.
This feels to me like your annual New York wants a pitcher,
Mhm.
so let's just assume that small market team X is going to trade their pitcher to big market team Y. You know what I mean? Like they always do that deal. And most of the time it doesn't happen, but they just like to like talk it into existence. So I think this is a lot of talk.
Well, my thought though is it came from Mark Sheldon originally. And he's the club's mouthpiece. I just
Well, maybe so.
I'm amazed he would have done that. Like that he did
Yeah.
that. And I felt like so now listen, the rumors from when they said he didn't get back quick enough or as quickly as they would have liked, or he didn't handle this, that, or the other very well. And I thought it was silly at first, but then I heard a little more grumblings about the way the club felt about him. And I thought, oh, maybe there's some fire with that smoke, I guess. But again, pitching is at such a premium. You've got this guy for 8.3 million next year. Like there's no I can't imagine unless it's just a guy on his unless it's Paul Skeens. There's hardly anybody in baseball that's going to be on a better bargain than that.
And he's a bargain if he makes 22 starts a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they'd really have to blow me away with what they get in return.
Sure.
I mean, you're going to have to see, I'm going to have to see two top 25 prospects and maybe a player.
Yeah, and again, it's if you're trading Hunter Greene for prospects when
What's the
you've
point? That's what I said when this came up a couple weeks ago. I said, if you're doing this, what's the point?
I mean, so it's not quite comparable exactly, but like remember when they traded Jeff Shaw? They just got, and I was actually watching YouTube spit out some algorithm stuff at me, and all of a sudden I get all these WLWT highlight, like just a bunch of games, like the first week of the season in '98, and it's all this stuff, and they're wearing those old pinstripe uniforms with the white hats and all that, and one of the deals was they'd hammered out a deal for Shaw. Maybe it was even the year before, but regardless, he gets traded at the All-Star break in '98 after signing this team-friendly deal.
Because he wanted to live at
He
home.
wanted to live close. He drove from Washington Courthouse down to the
Yeah.
ballpark. And here he was getting traded to the Dodgers. His first time he ever wore a Dodgers uniform was in the All-Star game.
Yeah, I mean, that was the Reds screwing him over.
Jim Bowden completely.
Yeah, of course.
And they got Konerko and Dennis Reyes in that deal, I believe. So yeah, I mean, turned out to be Konerko for Sean Casey, and Dennis Reyes was the big sweat or whatever they called him, and he was a pivotal point pitcher in the bullpen there in '99. But no, that's the one I thought of because it's like a guy on completely team friendly control.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I don't, like I said, there's a theoretically there's a baseball trade that could be made
Yeah,
that makes the team better. It's hard to imagine it, but it's possible. But I mean, if the whole thing is like all you hear is we're going to develop from within, we're going to draft well, we're going to develop well, we're going to retain our key talent, no peaks, no valleys, sustainability, all that stuff. And then you ship a guy off who's making well under market. That just tells me you're not serious. And I don't know what you would think you're doing, unless they just think that like he's never going to be healthy.
yeah, I guess. But I mean, he would still be under, like, if he was making 21 million next year, he would be technically around or under market, like
Yeah.
for what he's done.
Yeah.
And
I
that,
tend to think, Sheldon's the one who kind of took like a bizarrely personal and um not the kind of thing Mark Sheldon ever does, like provocative opinion about Hunter Greene not coming back from the DL, like you said. I tend to think it's some personal thing with them.
maybe.
I just think like Hunter Greene snubbed Mark Sheldon, and he decided that's the one time in his life he's gonna stand up and well, two. He blocked me when I said the Reds, the Cincinnati wasn't a tough media market. That wasn't a tough. I said
Really?
it wasn't a tough. The beat wasn't tough on players.
Yeah.
And he got so offended he blocked me on Twitter. This is like 15 years ago.
Well, you were speaking the truth, and little did you know it'd get even worse.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a controversial thing, is it? I mean, 40 years players say that as praise. It's not
Mhm.
like playing in New York. I don't have to get yelled at every time I make an error. I mean,
Right, right. I this came up with Skylar Whipker, I believe last week on the show, and I think you and I have kind of skirted around this a little bit. But the wild thing to me is one of the things I felt was missing last year, and maybe even a few of these years, is like the storytelling aspect, and I
oh,
it happened to like dawn on me that aside from the fact that I read like every Hal McCoy notebook and Chris Haft or whomever was the beat writer from the Post or the Inquirer back in the late '90s, early 2000s. It was as much as anything, it was George Grand telling stories, and George Grand would have that access somehow. And actually, I saw it in person. I was up at Toronto in 2009, and George is making the rounds, like talking to everybody, just big smile on his face, and it's like, I mean, he would share the stuff about, and I used two examples. The one was Sean Casey in the window elevator when he was in a slump practicing his swing, and like little tidbits like that. And then even like Sean Casey, I remember I said this one last week when he bought suit for Chris Rietzma, the pitcher, right? Somebody had taken Casey out when he came up the first, Jim Tomey, I think, when he first came up with the Indians, and so he was going to pay back, you know, a younger guy, and the story of him taking Chris Rietzma to get a couple suits, and it's like we don't hear these stories at
no.
all.
And I mean, that's the nature of sports journalism now, right? Like the players don't have to talk to the media directly to get their message out, so they don't as much. And after COVID, especially, the teams cut down access, and then the media business is what it is. So there are fewer guys around on a daily basis.
That's true.
So you just don't get. And a lot of the writing has done what out of necessity. A lot of the writing has gone to kind of analysis and statistical
Right.
work. So the folks who are writing and talking about the game are doing it from a distance like we do, and they just don't have those guys. Um, I'd love if the Athletic was to hire somebody to cover the Reds on a daily basis. I mean, they're
That would
probably
be
the only
something.
place left covering teams closely,
By
and
the
I would
way,
have thought that
we
would work for them.
people are tuned in right now to the original Riverfront podcast. So that's
Yeah, you
just
should talk to a trademark lawyer.
throw that out there. Yeah, there's a few legal questions that I have recently. All right, let's talk a little bit more about I guess, and I don't know, like I like John Sadak. I think he's a good play by play. He's a good TV play by play guy. Like the excitement it brings and his voice is made for broadcasting. I mean, he's got a great voice for it. I've heard tell of him getting to games pretty early, as most guys do, but I just don't hear the stories. And maybe he's not as welcome in the clubhouse as they were 20 years ago. I guess that's something I could ask him someday if I ever get to meet him. But like, it doesn't seem as personal as it did. And because I was trying to think, you're right. It's less people in the clubhouse as far as beat writers and things like that. Like these guys were competing for, every story, and a lot of the stories had to be similar because they were all in the same scrum, but they seemed to come up with something. And then also, I just feel like as much, and I'm the first to admit, like I got kind of tired of George Grant after year, but the more I look back on it, he shared so much more with us than we get now.
Yeah. Well, and you know, even think about the TV broadcast. You've got some guys. You have Larkin in there who doesn't travel with the team.
No.
I would imagine, like anything else, you know, road trips are where you do most of the bonding and the
Yep.
getting to know people and things like that. And he doesn't do that. And I don't think I don't know if he's not interested in getting to know the players, but because he might, but he's not interested in like sharing that with the audience. Um, and Brantley's not either, really. Brantley's, I think, a really good broadcaster, but he doesn't really talk about the players as people.
Yeah,
He
that's true.
talks about how they're thinking as athletes, but not, you know, that kind of day to day behind the scenes stuff. And neither really Chris Welsh was never really that kind of guy. He's kind of he does his own thing and
Mhm.
he's great too, but he's not like a let's get to know the guys type of broadcaster.
As I look back on it too, I can remember thinking about the times when Barry Larkin actually would open up to talk about, like, even, hey, I talked to Ellie about, I still remember the hands, like, your hands are, too far away from your body, or, like, even those little details, I'm like lapping it up. Like, come
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is, give me, and it doesn't even have to be like tips on playing the game. It's more like, again, like, just share information about these guys. And something's missing there. All right. I'm sorry. We got to get on with the news. I titled this next part "Moving the Chairs Around the Deck of the Titanic" because they had $112 million payroll in 2025. They make the playoffs. They did make the playoffs. That was 23rd in the all of baseball. There's 30 teams, so they were 23rd highest payroll. And I remember was it 2019? They got all the way up to 17th, and
Yeah.
I remember Chad warning us, don't be so happy that they're 17th out of 30. But we were so happy. We were thrilled. And then came what's his name? Grumpus, Nick Kroll. He says payroll is going to be the same as last year. Now,
Yeah.
didn't they go to the playoffs to make a little extra coin?
I would think. I mean, I hate it, but I do think that 23rd is probably about realistic. You know what I mean? Like I don't there's no way they can spend what the Mets and Dodgers do.
No, I agree with that.
And if, you know, I wish they had different ownership who had more flexibility and more funds, but I tend to believe that the team has to pay for itself. And I think like 23rd in revenue is probably not terrible for them. I don't think they're the 23rd biggest market.
No, that's probably true.
They're probably smaller than that. So, like, I'm not one to defend this organization, you know that, but like, it doesn't show me they're serious about winning, but like 23rd's they're not last. You know what I mean? Like they're not
I
like
do I do know what you
pocketing a
mean.
bunch of money, I don't think.
I do know what you mean, but on the other hand, I guess I don't expect them to be up with the Dodgers or the Mets or the Yankees and teams like that, or even the Cubs, I guess. But uh, we don't see the books, obviously. They don't have to. It's not like a public university or something like that that has to show where they're spending their money and where they're making their money. So there's no way of knowing for sure that they're not just lining their pockets every year. And it just feels like they did better in attendance last year, and they made the playoffs. And any fan out there could reasonably maybe expect them to do a little more. I
Yeah, yeah.
guess I
I,
guess I'm in the mode of like understanding them and the Bengals and the way they operate, and
I
you know,
think well, one thing you see is that they're very clear they want no peaks, no valleys, sustainable. They say sustainable success, but that's not really what they mean. Sustainability, consistency is what they want. So there's a way to run a team where you spend $130 million for 2 or 3 years when you've got a quote unquote window, and then you retrench and you cut and you get down to 105 for a year until you get more young talent, and then you spend again. Like that's a way to do it. It's just not the way they've decided they're never going to do it that way.
well, And of course, it all comes back to 2020 and the fact that they did try to go all in more. I mean, it's still a few of those decisions were not smart, but uh, they went all in at Burnham, and they decided not to do that anymore. Um,
Yeah,
so
attendance was only up 146,000
okay,
over last year. So it was up, but you're looking at what is that? 2,000, 1,500, 2,000 people a night.
I I will tell you though, you mentioned that they're not going to go way up or in and settle back down. What they did already do that though. Their payroll in 2021 was 122. And then in 22 it was 114, and 23 it was only 82.9. And then 24 it was 90.
Yeah.
So they did take their gap years there and
Yeah. Yeah.
say we're going to hold off a little bit, and I guess they're settling in. But I guess what I'd like is a study of let's put the halves up front and say they're always going to spend more, but let's find this place where Pittsburgh and all these other markets where they're just going to suck in the luxury tax money that's sent to them and not spend it, and try to do better than every one of those. And I guess I'd like to see obviously the A's and the Rays and the White Sox lately and the Pirates and
Yeah. I think if you took the Castellini family and, gave them some sort of truth serum, they would say they're right where they want to be.
I agree with you. You're right.
They're, this 80 to 85 wins is enough for them, and they're not losing money. I think that's like, they'd love it if they won. They would, but they don't want it. They're not going to try to do it.
Yeah.
It's just going to have to be luck.
Well, part of the plan then to try to make sure they're around that $112 million is options were declined. All right. Austin Hayes, Scott Barlow, and Brent Suter. Did that surprise you at all? That happened just the last day or so.
I think Barlow's the only one that surprised me a little bit because I thought he could be a reasonable part of the bullpen next year.
I was surprised what they gave him last year. I think he made like $7 million.
Well, I think I think that's like a fair price for an established major league reliever.
Well, but again, this is the Reds.
Yeah, right. I mean, well, that's exactly right. That's what they're telling you is they're not going to pay market rate for guys that aren't, they're going to pay market rate for anybody, but they're not going to pay market rate for a guy who's not going to move the needle significantly.
So those guys are gone. We'll have a question later about that. Also gone to free agency, the Nick Martinez. He had the $21 million after the qualifying offer was accepted last year. Emilio Pagan, Zach Littell, Wade Miley, Espinal, we kind of discussed that already, and Miguel Andujar. So 13 players were offered the qualifying offer, and none of those included Emilio Pagan or any of these guys. So the Reds are out of that business for this coming year. Would you try to re-sign any of these guys?
No. Hey, by the way, I'm looking here. It says Barlow only made $2.5 million, but you're saying the option is $7 million?
Okay, I don't know. No, I thought he made $7 this past year.
Oh, no, he made $1.5 million, and then he has a $1 million option that they just had to or decline. When the buyout, but it would have been $6.5 million.
Okay.
So they saved $5.5 million by not paying him. No, I don't think any of those guys are. I mean, maybe Andujar.
That's the one that intrigued me a little bit. And I don't know, obviously they don't want to pay him too much because they got him and he was already hurt, and he played really well for about 2 weeks, and then just kind of became, hey, I can play once every 5 days for you. What I thought I could see of him, I thought he fit in really well with the ballpark and the team and all that.
Yeah, he could have been one of those guys, kind of like Nick Castellanos, who it's a really good fit in the ballpark, and I think he's going to hit really well.
Mm-hmm.
I saw an interview this week, and I think it was Terry Francona in the last couple of days talking about the lineup for next year.
I don't know if I saw that.
And I think it was him. Maybe it was Krall. But he was basically saying, Marte is penciled into right field. Friedel, they want to get him some more rest. They thought they overplayed him a little bit which I agree with. They think he can be effective again, maybe if he's not playing all the time. And there was something else in that interview that kind of the takeaway I took was like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't try to platoon so many places all the time.
Oh, you think?
The platooning is just a lot to manage, and it's hard to get guys reps. And this is me, but kind of the natural stuff. And it's like it's just hard to get guys in a groove, and maybe that's part of an Andujar decision because that guy is pretty much a platoon guy. I think at this point in his career, or at least if you want the best of him, you're not going to put him out there every day.
Sure. I'm looking at it now. I think I was surprised that Pagan made $8 million. I think that was who I was thinking about. But anyway, Pagan's gone as far as his, he's a free agent now. The platoon thing makes total sense. Like that.
Yeah, and this was Kroll, I think, by the way. I think
people going into last year who were just salivating over such a platoon heavy lineup as if it's a good thing. I don't know if we figured out that that's the case. Now, I mean, there's guys you say, don't let him bat against a righty, or don't let this guy bat against a lefty. Like, I get that. But, all right, arbitration eligible. Tyler Stevenson and Gavin Lux, and then Matt McLean introduced to arbitration a little bit earlier than thought because he became a Super 2 player.
Super.
Well, 4 years of arbitration for Matt instead of 3. So that doesn't change the time they have him under control. It just means that he can make a little extra money this coming year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Gavin Lux get non-tendered. I think getting into that same whole platoon type of thing, and if they want to, he's going to be a pricey bench player.
Yep.
Not exactly the most versatile defender. I mean, he goes a lot of places, but I don't think he's like good at many of them.
There was a stretch probably in late August, early September where I actually was thinking about how valuable he was to have. And it wasn't because he was playing every day. It was because I will never forget the times when they just didn't have a bench, even when they had a good team in, that 2010 through 13 era. We'll talk about a little bit in a moment, but they would go out of their way. What was it? Wilson Valdez and all these guys, and they would never spend on the bench. And I guess there was a stretch, now not the whole year maybe, but where I thought how nice it was to have Lux in that position. But you're right, it just a team that's not going to spend the extra money, probably doesn't want to spend it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I'm with you. Like by the end of the year, they didn't have a bench full of Connor Joes and Santiago Espinals. Like they had real baseball players on the bench. And
right.
I don't know. I don't know what their thinking is, if they're going to go find a real bench or they've got, shuffle guys around again. Maybe they keep Lux, or maybe they think maybe last year is the model that they start off with junk.
Yeah.
And if they're in contention, then they go add 2 or 3 guys that are actual major league players to round out the roster to have a full 25.
Maybe we're starting to peel away what it actually is. So they've got those players, and then they've got these players who, you've got your Ellie De La Cruz and guys like that aren't arbitration eligible yet, but they'll do small raises. And then Hunter Greene, we already discussed. Brian Hayes will make $7 million. Jose Trevino will make 5.25. And now they just signed this Keegan Thompson, who I believe was AAA for the Cubs all year as a pitcher. Apparently that's the new Nick Martinez because he could start or be in the bullpen.
Oh.
I also heard his major league contract's $1.3 million, but it's a 2-way deal, which I thought only happened in NBA. Apparently there's language that says if you're in AAA or in the minor leagues, this is how much we pay you.
Yeah, he's going to get like $350K.
Yeah,
for the part when he's in the minors.
So with the particulars discussed as far as what we know as of now, like what do you do? Do you we don't need these free agents. We need to go find new free agents. Do we make trades and try to make meaningful trades that hopefully maybe don't include Hunter Greene? Do we go for free agents and have the pipe dream of Kyle Schwarber? our friend Mark Sheldon today was saying, don't get too excited about that idea. Schwarber, Kyle Tucker, Ryan O'Hearn, Cedric Mullins.
Mike Yastrzemski, Trent Grisham.
There you go. You're getting closer, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
This year's Austin Hayes is.
Yeah, and if Austin Hayes had been healthy, stop, Chris. Let's not. They need a major league hitter who can hit the ball over the fence.
They do.
It's like that's the one thing about all this is Nick Krall's job is pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to put together a bullpen, which every general manager in baseball has to do every winter. And he needs to add one legitimate left fielder. Or DH, I guess, but someone who can hit the ball over the fence.
Yeah, the exercise that Skylar and Ben were doing 2 or 3 weeks ago where they were remembering, Reds players of the past, and it just so happened that several of them were great offensive players. And I'm like, it dawned on me, like, put any one of these guys in last year's lineup, even the ones that played on garbage teams. Like, what would in his prime Jay Bruce look like on that team last year?
Right.
Like, it's an 83 win team, and you put a guy that could hit 34 home runs in there and drive in 100 runs. Like that, it solves so many problems just by that one guy. And we thought legitimately they have more problems, and that what Jay Bruce wouldn't have made him a 100-win team. I'm not saying that, but it would have changed so much as far as our perception and what we thought.
Well, and you hear this a lot, like the kind of knock-on effects for the whole lineup. It's not just you put those stats in for the one guy you kick out. It just makes your number 5 hitter a lot better because he's not the number 4 hitter anymore.
That's right.
And your numbers, it's. I got a roster question for you. Do you think that at this point they regret falling in love with Jose Trevino and committing all that money to him?
I don't, for a few reasons. I think they finally admitted to themselves, and maybe in relation to that, also admitted to us that they understand that they can't just carry around a single or double A catcher as your backup catcher. But I also think that Tyler Stevenson, talking about guys that might be available, I mean, he'd be a little more marketable at this point. And, I hope they don't regret it, because I thought it was a turn. It was like a move in the right direction, I guess I'd say. It's not not money, but it's not that much money.
It's right. I mean, it's $6.5 million for a backup catcher, but we're also talking about, squeezing every dollar out of this thing, and whatever other moves they make to get out from under payroll this winter. If they do, it's gonna look weird if you can't afford to pay Hunter Greene 13, but you can pay the backup catcher half that.
That's true. But something caused them to do it, because he'd only been around for 3 or 4 weeks on spring training before they made that deal.
Yeah.
So that's
he's going to be 35.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But he's the best backup catcher they've had in a long time. I mean, what the brief period that maybe Mesoraco was healthy and Tucker was coming up along the way?
Yeah, well, 68 OPS plus is the most they've had.
Wow. Okay. Thanks, man. Well, let's stick with some news of the week. Terry Francona named a finalist for NL Manager of the Year. I mean, the national media loves Terry Francona so much that, like, if he's in the dugout, he's probably going to get nominated for this, right? I mean, it's like fair. Year after year. And he took the Reds to the playoffs. So there you go. Despite what social media told me the entire month of September, that he was mismanaging everything. I guess that's Twitter doesn't vote on Manager of the Year, right?
Probably not.
All right. As if that wasn't enough foolproof ways to distract us from, what the Reds don't have. They unveiled the 2026 Reds Hall of Fame voting class of players that us fans are being able to vote for. And it's more of a more recent era, which is why we're not seeing Reggie Sanders. I forget what they call that. It's the modern era or whatever, because they still haven't put Reggie Sanders in the Reds Hall of Fame.
I know this is more or less a Reggie Sanders podcast, but I'm just going to go like 20 seconds. That blows my mind because when I saw the ballot today, I kind of flipped through the entire motley list of Reds Hall of Famers. And I have no problem with this, really. Everybody's in it.
Yes.
I mean, someday I'm going to count how many members of the Big Red Machine are in it, but there's got to be 25 guys who played for the Reds between 1970 and 1980. They're in that hall.
It's like the Steelers in the
the
Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I mean, there's like at least 3 relievers, maybe 4
Yeah.
in the Big Red Machine.
Uh-huh.
Let alone their entire starting lineup and 3 starters, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a lot of dudes in there, and it's fine, but how you don't get to Reggie Sanders and that whole thing is mind-boggling to me.
I've got to assume there's 2 things. Well, first of all, how they handled the Hall of Fame 20 many more years ago. Who knows? But Reggie Sanders had a longer than people realize career with the Reds. People remember 1995 and what he didn't do in that series against the Braves. But he played for the Reds from 92 to 98. But then he goes on to play for like 8 more teams over a pretty long period of time. And I just think he became so out of sight, out of mind by the end. And that's got to be it, right?
I think that's it. It's like if his career had ended when he left the Reds, they might have put him in there.
Yeah. But I think that's it. I was thinking of that today. All right, let's talk about the candidates, right?
All right, let's hear it.
Homer Bailey. I'll go through all of them, and because I saw you had a few things to say earlier. Homer Bailey, Francisco Cordero, Zach Cozart, everybody's favorite tweeter, Aaron Harang, Mike Leake, Brandon Phillips, Scott Rowland, and Edinson Volquez. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think Phillips, he's not my favorite guy,
Sure.
but he's absolutely should be in the Team Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, key player on good teams, long career, most of it with the Reds. Okay, that's an easy one. I think Aaron Harang is an easy one.
Yeah.
I think he was the best pitcher on this team for a good chunk of time. Now, they didn't have many good pitchers, but Bronson's in, and I think Harang he wasn't on the playoff teams, but I think he was just as important, and probably he was the number 1 and Bronson was the number 2 when they were together.
Yeah.
So I think Harang's in. Some of them are obvious, Leak and Volquez, throw them out right away. Now you got Homer, Cozart, Francisco Cordero, and Rowland. I haven't thought about Francisco Cordero since he left the team, so he doesn't scream Hall of Famer to me. The other guys, Rowland's an interesting case.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't play for the team that long, didn't play that well when he was here, but obviously has, even while he was here, had kind of a mythic stature as a team leader and shaper of culture and shaper of on-field play as well.
First to third, that's what we do in Cincinnati.
That's right. You got two Hall of Famers right there. I don't know. How many did they let in? Is it 3?
I thought it was 2.
Okay.
I should have looked into that a little more, but this list is basically that 2010 to 13 window of.
Yeah.
I mean, Harang was on the team in 2010, but he had a terrible year, and then they let him go. He led the league in wins with 16 back in 2006. He had 6 complete games.
He was a dog, man.
Yeah, and he had 16 wins back-to-back years, 3.7-ish ERA. Of course, he'll always be known for the day Dusty Baker made him pitch on 2 or 3 days rest in that
San Diego
18 inning game in San Diego. In 2006, he also led the league in strikeouts with 216. He had a good year.
he was good, man. So there's two. I checked it. They're gonna elect two.
Yeah.
And you can vote for two.
I
So
think
my votes are Harang and Brandon Phillips.
I think that's my vote. I bet you it's Phillips and Roland.
It could be. It could be. The interesting one to me. So two things. Cozart. I'm never going to vote for Cozart, but Cozart had a pretty darn good career, and not just that one really good year. He was a solid two win player for the Reds every year for 6 or 7 years. Homer Bailey's the shocking one though to me.
Yeah, his numbers don't tell the story that we thought it would.
Yeah, like I looked at his numbers and they're honestly bad.
Yeah.
Now part of it is like the last 4 years he was there, he was terrible. But I mean, what was it like? Homer Bailey threw like 1,200 innings as a Red, and I think his like career like wins above replacement for the team is 3.8.
Wow,
and that's in 245 starts.
Yeah, a lot of negatives. Especially you're right. Those last 4 or 5 years he was with the Reds were pretty bad.
It's like nine full seasons of starting every game. I mean, he was on the team for 12 years, and to only come up with that, I mean, he only had one season for the Reds where he was over a 2-win player.
His second best B-WAR year came in 2019 when he split between the Royals and the A's. Yeah. And you think about those ballparks.
Right.
You know?
I mean, he was okay from like 2012 to 2014, but he was bad all the rest of his career.
Yeah, he gave up. Yeah.
It's shocking to me, honestly.
No, and he's certainly was a phenom. In part, I give him credit, or they went all those decades without developing a pitcher,
right?
And all these can't miss guys, and even guys that shouldn't have drafted. Ty Howington, I don't think ever even was he the one that never signed, or maybe he did. And it was Chris Grueller.
The next Tom Seaver, according to
yeah. So on one hand, I feel like thinking that Homer Bailey actually helped kind of propel this franchise towards something. And he was part of that rotation, obviously, in 2012 and 13 that did so well. And he did his part, and especially in 2012. And I'll tell you, the best game he probably pitched in his career was the one they lost in the series with the Giants in 2012. Even though he had the 2 no-hitters, he was amazing in that game.
Yeah. That was you got also candidates Roland and Phillips making big plays in that game negatively.
That's right.
So let me just say this: the Reds had all 5 starters this year had more wins above replacement than Homer Bailey's best year.
Wow, that's that's something to talk to Reds fans.
And Emilio Pagan and Tony Santillan had more
than his best year.
Yeah, I think that's right. Did I read it right? So Nick Martinez. Yeah.
His best B-WAR year was 2.8.
Okay, I lied then.
In 2013.
Only Santillan, Greene, Lodolo, and Abbott were better.
Okay.
Nick Martinez was 2.3.
You're looking at B-WAR, right?
Yep.
Yeah. In 2013, he actually went 11-12, but he had a 2.8 WAR.
Yeah, I mean that's just.
It is shocking, but remember when he came up, he threw so many pitches. He couldn't get out of the 5th inning. And, again, it's basically 2 no-hitters.
And a good playoff start.
And probably the Johnny Cueto injury in 2012. It's basically like.
And I'll say this: 2 no-hitters and a good playoff start, or good playoff start, that'll get you in this Hall of Fame. Like it does. It doesn't beat out the guys on this ballot, but there are dudes in this Hall of Fame with fairly comparable resumes.
Now they do every other year, right? So
that sounds right.
And then are they going to reach back 2 years from now and do more of a veteran committee type thing?
Or maybe that's next year.
Because last year they just celebrated the Big Red Machine, right? They didn't do a
Well,
Hall of Fame,
they do that whenever they can.
and they did the Marty
Oh,
statue.
right. Marty had to be by himself. No, I don't mean that him. Like when they inducted him, he was the only one, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. This is it's pretty wild to see because like I would assume they will vote. The fans would vote, and if maybe it's not just the fans, maybe somebody steps in and says, "No, we're going to give this much," but it would be Phillips and Roland. I think would win this vote, and then 2 years after that, do you roll back out the rest of these guys again?
Well, that's a good question. Let's check the eligibility rules here.
Votto will be Votto's last year was 23, so does he have to wait till 28?
Yeah. Final MLB season more than 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it says, oh, then less than 15 years since their last major league game. So
So
some of
yeah,
these guys
that's
are
that
going to be or fall
era,
off.
the modern era committee. Yeah, they'd fall off.
So Roland and Volquez are going to fall off this list, and Harang and Cordero. Well,
Wait,
hold on.
did you say
That's
their
their last
last
Reds. I'm
Reds
sorry,
game?
that's their last Reds year. So that's
Yeah.
not true, except for Roland.
Cordero's funny because I mean he was fine, right? And that was a huge deal when they got him away from the Brewers and all that with the deal they gave him. But I remember one time running the numbers on Danny Graves, Francisco Cordero for Cordero, and Aroldis Chapman, like over like a 3 or 4 year period each, and they were so similar. Like
Yeah,
as far as number of saves and percentage of saves, and like I mean, be healthy, I guess, is the biggest thing, right? But uh, yeah, it's my memories of Cordero aren't that great either.
I mean he was on the team for 4 years.
Right. But he was he there in 2010? I think he was he gone already or was that his last
No, he
year?
was there.
Okay. Cuz then I remember man when Chapman came up in September and just was throwing
Yeah, of
that
course.
was crazy. All right, let's turn to viewer mail before we say goodbye to the folks out there. You know, we put together some of these off-season shows, Chris, and I wonder if we're even going to have a half an hour, and here we are. So we're going to make it. Joey Gaditza leads us off, and Joey, I'm not Chad, so I don't usually say anything about how long your queries are on viewer mail, but this one's a long one. So we'll go through it, and I think we've talked about a lot of it, but I don't want to give you short shrift. You said, "Cheers, gentlemen." So we should likely expect the front office to do the minimum as far as signing any free agents or taking on larger contracts via trade this offseason. I imagine their hope is to see what the financials will look like with an expiring CBA looming. Nicely put, they'll still take the cheap route. Yeah. I mean, again, though, I think Chris made a good point. We don't usually want to give them any credit, but 23rd out of 30 probably is about where you should expect them to be. I it doesn't make me happy. I wish they would reach a little more and make smart, more expensive moves, right?
I do.
Yeah. Brian Bowdy says, which will be more frustrating to watch for the next few months, the Reds front office or the Bengals defense? Dude, regardless, we're going to watch both. We're going to see both. And the Bengals defense will be done playing much long before the Reds front office is done making moves or not making moves, as it were. Brandon Kamick, this is one for you, Chris. Does Dick Williams have a larger payroll budget with Skyline than he did with the Reds?
That's a good one. It might be right.
So Dick knows how to give away some bobbleheads or to move some
Yeah.
bobbleheads, and the Bengals bobblehead thing was pretty funny this year. You went from not being able to get the Burrow and Chase ones, which I forgot to go get my son the Chase one, so I had to buy one on eBay. So 2 weeks later, I decided to go get the Higgins ones, and I'm like, I'm going to buy extras and sell them on eBay so I can make my money back from the Chase one.
Yeah.
And that was after they lost their fourth consecutive game in a row, and I had to lower that price 4 times. before I sold my 2 extra bobbleheads. So, yeah, the
Yeah,
bobblehead.
last year they had the cups, and
Yes,
it was pretty easy to get. Like, maybe it was 2 years ago. It was pretty easy to get like a DJ Reader cup
yeah, that's right.
most of the following spring.
Yeah, the employees were taking them home one night at a time.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle Kapler's going to finish us out. He says, "Which of the 3 rejected players who had options would you want back if you had to choose?" Reminder: those players were Barlow, Suter, and Hayes.
I think Barlow.
I think Barlow's the one too. That's who I would say, like. And again, we don't know year to year on relievers, right? It's just you just don't know. But I guess if I could throw as many of them into a pile and say some of them will be okay and some of them probably won't. I certainly didn't like Austin Hayes at 12 million. Like,
No.
so that one, Austin Hayes back at 5 million. I would have, pinched my nose and waded through that, I guess. But no, Barlow's the easy answer there, because Suter was basically a cheerleader by the end. He would catch the first pitches by any Bengal or
Yeah,
Cincinnati
yeah,
native.
yeah. Good dude. I'm glad that he played for the Reds, but
Yes, very cool.
he
The night
wasn't.
I was there for the game and I sat down low, and Kevin Huber threw out the first pitch. I mean, Suter and Huber were just, what that McNicholas and all that stuff, talking
Yeah,
about high school football and Cincinnati, and so that was pretty cool to witness in person. But other than that, I don't know. But well, Chris, you've got a bye week with the Bengals, so no trek down I-71 for you.
nope. Relax. All right. So you asked a question earlier
Okay.
about backup catchers, and I did a look, and I searched for all catchers in the 21st century for the Reds who caught more than 50 games.
All right.
I had them stacked up, and I'm looking at kind of, when they had a good combination of catchers, and there weren't that many,
Nope.
truthfully. Like, the what's his name? Maley. What Luke Maley
Yes.
actually was one of the more productive ones.
Local Luke.
Yeah, the best combo was the Jason LaRue and Javier Valentin
Uh-huh.
combo. But I noticed a gap in the list that said there was nobody from 2022. And I thought, what the hell? Is there a glitch in the baseball reference? No catcher in 2022 caught more than 50 games for the Reds.
That wasn't Ryan Lavarnway's year, was it?
No, and I'm going to list the guys who did play catcher for the Reds. And I'm going to add, and all of these guys, well, I'm going to list these guys off. And I want you to tell me if any of these sound familiar to you. Aramis Garcia, 47 games.
I have no idea who that is.
Austin Romine,
I remember him.
37 games. Mike Papieski, 34 games. Chucky Robinson, 25 games.
I remember Chucky.
Mark Kozlavari.
I saw Chucky play in Columbus for the Bats. That's how I know him so well.
Games for Mark. Former draft pick Chris Oakey, 7 games.
I remember, yeah.
And then Tyler Stevenson caught 50 games and had a 1.6 wins above replacement. He actually hit 319 that year, but only made it to 50 games.
There was a minute where Chris Oakey was going to be better than Tyler Stevenson many years ago.
Yeah. That was so. Yeah, that's quite a year. Well, I guess they didn't. Did they not play a full season? They did, right?
Yeah, in 22.
Yeah. Why is no? It's really weird. Like, no starting pitcher threw more than 19, made more than 19 starts.
Oh, that was a terrible year.
Yeah, I guess Hunter Greene did 24, but yeah, I mean, that is your Buck Farmer, your Art Warren, World Series hero Jeff Hoffman.
That's right. Look up his numbers sometime. Not now. We're going to get off here in a minute, but Jeff Hoffman's numbers with the Reds, I panned him as not being very good. He was better than I gave him credit for as a Red.
He was really good. I mean, he just seemed like that whole year everything was kind of a joke, but he was good in limited time for them.
So you mentioned Javier Valentin, and of course he played a lot of first base, and he didn't catch only. One of my favorite catcher years with the Reds was 2006 when they traded for David Ross, and they played LaRue and David Ross. Ross played 90 games. LaRue played 72 games, and Valentin in total played 92, but not all at catcher. So I was at the first David Ross game. It was a day game early in the season. I think it was at Arroyo's first start, and Arroyo hit a home run hit one home run, I think, and then David Ross hit a home run also, and Arroyo hit a home run off. What was it, Glendon Rush? That he hit a home run off of him in Wrigley the next start. So it was like pretty wild. But David Ross as a Red was fun. All right, well, Chris, it's been fun, and
My
again,
pleasure.
you will be spared going to Cincinnati for the Bengals this weekend. I'm happy to know you'll be able to do that. Good luck with the high school football. I know in our part of the world, your neighborhood is seemingly, as far as the big school division, it's got all the action, doesn't it?
It does. We have all four teams from our district, all four high schools are in the same half of the region. So we're guaranteed to get one and only one team into the regional final.
That's right. But on the other hand, you'll be playing.
We don't have to leave the district for the next 2
That's right.
weeks.
That's right. Okay. Well, hey, everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you are a Patreon member, come over to the Slack and chat and have a great time there. Keep spitballing these ideas of who the Reds might get, and maybe Kyle Schwarber will come home. We'll have to see about that. All right. So long, everyone.